The endless void of space rushed past my window. The more primal part of my mind said that I should detach the space station from my ship, and that would make it go faster. The rational part of my brain reminded me that my family space station, despite its massive size, did not slow down my craft as there is virtually no drag in empty space. Besides, I needed it. For us Tiraxians, space stations like the one that was now hurtling through space with me were a cultural and social pastime. You could order or even build the part yourself, park the thing in the middle of nowhere, save the hyperspace coordinates to your ship's navigational computer, and you would have your own private getaway. It was like a human treehouse. Humans. Despite the known existence of alien life, some parts of the galaxy were still unexplored, and humans were one of the great galactic secrets. Radio signals from the abyss. For a century, various species turned their antennas towards the vast and unexplored Orion arm of the galaxy, hoping to get signals, and hear the songs and tales of the galaxy's most mysterious bards. This station I had in tow had several major dishes for such purposes. I remember the first time my father brought me to the station. He went up to the control panel, and after making a few adjustments, a rhythmic tune was heard on the intercom. "Hear that, son?" my father asked, with a big grin on his face. "Yes, Dad," I replied, having no idea what the song was. It was unlike anything I'd ever heard up until that point, though given my mere 4 cycles of age, that wasn't saying much. "That music is coming from out there." He turned me around to the window and pointed at the stars. "The music comes from people who live on a tiny planet called Earth. It is very far away." "How far away are they, Daddy?" asked my younger self. "They are 96 light years away," my father replied. "That's pretty far, Daddy," I remarked in awe. "You have no idea, son," was all my father said. Truth be told, I had no idea just how much of an understatement that was. It was about the maximum range our radio dishes could pick up something that could be filtered into proper speech. My father explained that we weren't the only ones listening to the humans. The Galactic Democracy and Galactic Republic also tuned their senses towards our unknown entertainers. However, my father did mention that we in the Galactic Federation were the ones with the most advanced receivers. The Republic and Democracy both bought much of their communications equipment from us. Some also believed that we were also one of the closest factions to the unknown system. However, in the Federation, the search for the Sol system and the human race that inhabited it was officially frowned upon. Humans were the cryptids of the known galaxy. It wasn't as if nobody tried. The Galactic Republic and Galactic Democracy had formed dozens of expeditions. Several of them joined efforts to try and find the mysterious planet of Earth, but they found nothing. Of course, these expeditions were always cut short thanks to political pressure from the Federation. Of course, not everyone in the Federation had such opinions, but the ruling majority found the search to be both a waste of time and a detriment to the moral fabric of society. Whenever I asked my uncle why the Council hated humans, he would always tell me that it was the carnivorous side of the humans as the reason for the Council's disapproval. The Republic had a couple carnivores and twice as many omnivores. The Democracy had just one species of carnivore and 4 omnivores. The Federations had none, and whenever individuals of these rare non-herbivorous species came to the Federation, regardless of reason, they always faced discrimination. The Council itself was always adamant that the only reason for their existence was the fact that they had been uplifted by foolish herbivores. Many of the ancient races in the Federation have a similar history. Their races were once upon a time subject to being the prey for large carnivores on their home planet, before they could take to the stars. This trauma is ingrained in their DNA so that even now, millennia after the last of their savage beasts was hunted to extinction, they still check under the hibernation pods for predators. I still remember my uncle's explanation. It certainly explained why almost every one of their horror media pieces always involves some kind of flesh-eating monster. Regardless, my parents, my siblings and I would turn our radio dishes towards the Orion arm and listen to the music from the great unknown. It was exhilarating to take part in such a forbidden act. It was like joining a cult, garnering forbidden knowledge about the universe, all without the downsides. Many cycles passed. I grew older, as did my siblings, and eventually we came to have to busy ourselves with the more mundane parts of life, like getting a part-time job working at a hardware store. Most of the time, you just have to sit there and take complaints from the various Federation species aliens about how the Democrats are trying to brainwash Federation citizens through chemicals in the water that may or may not make them homosexuals, or how the Republic was secretly run by a religious order of psychics that kidnapped children from every corner of the galaxy. It looked like life was going to carry on like this. Then it happened. I remember where I was when I first heard the news. I had just come home from my shift. My father looked at me anxiously. "So, did you see my message?" he asked with a level of excitement I had not heard from him in a long time. "No, I didn't," I replied. Honestly, we were not allowed to use personal communications devices while at work, and I wasn't ready to risk my job in seeing how thorough or inquisitive my boss really was. "You've got to see this." My father moved over to allow me to see an incredibly fuzzy holoprojection showing a small ship I could not identify. My father's excitement grew as I read the text underneath. Humans are real. We had found them. The Galactic Republic's outer worlds had been stumbled upon by humans. That night was a night of celebration. I wish it could have lasted forever. It was when the site went down that we knew something was wrong. The news had blown up on the galactic net like a supernova, and this sudden silence could not be ignored. The people questioned the council but did not get a response. When the council finally broke the silence, I found myself wishing that they never had. The Council of the Federation announced on state media that the Federation was in the greatest fight for its life. The Council's media figurehead spun a tale of horror. An entire race of violent, flesh-eating monsters had come to the stars from its hellworld to eat all of us. Those who had previously believed humans to be myths were eating that shit up like it was pandemonium grain. However, those of us who had been listening to the human broadcast were outraged. How could they? The Council was so stubborn that they would double down on such lies rather than admitting that they were wrong. Of course, protests and inevitably riots started on the vast majority of the worlds in the Federation. However, it was a futile gesture as the Council declared war on the humans and threatened both the Republic and democracy with the same, should they try and get in the way. Many public figures of the pro-human protesters were arrested. My father, however, was a smaller figure who hadn't joined in the fighting on the front line, instead opting for the more discreet activity of helping tend to the wounded. My boss, who I swear I've caught humming a human tune or two, told us that if any of us wished to keep our jobs, we would avoid the protests with the widest berth possible, and with prices skyrocketing from this crisis, I had no choice. Nevertheless, the months dragged on, and our government reported victory after victory, news that saddened me as I feared that I would get to watch as the species went extinct in front of my eyes. I also feared for my own safety as more and more people disappeared, and my uncle seemed to have exiled himself to his desk at the Navy's Segmentum headquarters. The walls were closing in around me. Perhaps that was why I wasn't surprised when both of my left arms were forcibly grabbed, but I was surprised at the next words I heard. "Boralex, we need to move," the female voice spoke in a hushed whisper. "Where are we going?" I asked, not even bothering with the question of how she knew my name. "To your spaceship. We are going to board it, get your family space station, and go find the humans," the unknown female said in a very strict tone that made it clear that there was no refusing this offer. "Can you at least tell me who you are?" It was all I could think to plead. "My name is Moralia. I was assigned to go on this mission with you by your uncle." That was all she said, until now, when the relative safety of the starship against the harsh vacuum of space, I finally work off the courage to ask her more questions, a fact she seemed to realize as I turned to her. "Okay, so what was this mission you have been assigned to?" I begin my small interrogation with this simple question, and with nobody else around, it seems that Moralia is much more willing to talk. "We are on this mission to save our species from extinction," Moralia answered. "Then why I'm sorry, what?" I blinked, stopping mid-sentence, as my brain finally registered that Moralia had said our extinction and not their extinction. I found it hard to believe that we were in any threat. All of the protests done to try and save the human race from extinction. Moralia then pulled back the proverbial curtains and told me what was really going on. Originally, it was thought that the human broadcasts were 96 years old. However, this turned out to not be the case. We were off by 130 years. It turned out that the humans broadcasted radio frequencies at a much higher energy level than anyone else in the galaxy. This explained why no one had ever found anything. They were searching at 96 light-years away, when in reality the humans were 226 light-years away. This had two major side effects. It meant that the humans were actually a much larger population than previously believed, and significantly more advanced. Needless to say, the war was not going well for us. It also turns out that declaring war on them and taking civilians you captured in the first offensive as pleasure slaves was a really good way to anger the humans. I shuddered, as I have heard enough human media to know what the humans could do when angry. So, I brought this, Morelia said, finishing up her story and holding up a datapad. It contains petabytes of useful stuff, footage of pro-human protests, the testimonies of many pro-human political prisoners, various archive media of those who had listened to the radio signals. Hopefully the humans will understand that we aren't a slaver species, and hopefully not commit a genocide against us. I nodded my head. Okay, I can work with that. But what's with me bringing my family space station? It has the proper communications array to send signals at all frequencies, and it wasn't something being monitored by the Council's agents, Morelia explained. It was a fair enough reason, so here we are, flying through space in a path that should take us directly to the human fleet. I just hope they don't shoot us down immediately.